Hello and welcome back to Golden Fortune Leo, where decades of astrological research meet social psychology, seasoned observation, and a novelist's quiet wisdom seasoned further by Buddhist clarity. Today we step into a moment that feels less like a meteor and more like a gentle but undeniable push, the December 2025 full moon in Gemini. This lunation enters like a stage light switched on in a dark theater you thought you were comfortably napping in. You did not summon it, but you will thank it later. I speak as someone who has studied Leo behavior across thousands of charts, across communities and eras, and the pattern repeats. Leos either rule their time with regal discipline or treat it like a dramatic hobby. Gemini will not leave that ambiguity alone. It opens cabinets of your mind, flicks on lights in rooms you have been avoiding, and asks plain blunt questions. Are you spending your hours on what honors your soul, or are you distributing them to noise, obligation, or sympathy that no longer returns value? My role here is to offer a careful, compassionate excavation, not to scold, but to point to where clarity and action meet. This full moon functions as a cosmic supervisor. It reveals where emotional debts have accumulated, where hopeful delusions have been secretly protecting comfort over growth, and where rituals of procrastination have been dressed up as character. At the same time, Buddhist practice reminds us that presence is the only currency we truly have, so gratitude becomes less an accessory and more a tool. When a Leo reconnects with what is already working, creativity and intuition reawaken and the heart steadies without losing its shine. Expect endings that feel like relief rather than punishment, and beginnings that arrive with practical teeth. Career pivots, boundary conversations, home shifts, and the decisive cutting of relationships that have expired emotionally. Humorously, you may feel like a diva whose stage manager suddenly insists on shorter scenes. Take it as a kindness. The spiritual signatures of 777 and 999 whisper that rapid inner growth and clean completion are unfolding. And the real work is not drama but discerning, choosing where to invest attention, energy, and time. You will find, as many Leos do, that your truest resilience is quieter than your roar bones rather than fireworks, and that steady endurance will carry you into a chapter aligned with your deeper purpose. In short, this is not a cursory horoscope but a soul recalibration. The universe is offering clarity, a fresh manifesting field, and the invitation to live with more intentionality. Stay with me as we map the practical changes, the psychological shifts, and the small daily practices that will turn this lunar push into lasting transformation. Listen to the intelligence within, laugh when necessary, and act when the evidence is clear. Your reign begins when you choose your hours wisely and refuse to audition for roles that dim you. Claim your time, Leo, and let the world catch up to you. The Gemini full moon arrives with the unmistakable energy of the universe stepping into the room, flicking on every overhead light, and saying with the gentlest but firmest authority, enough. If you've been drifting, delaying, or keeping yourself half-invested in situations that drain you, this lunation acts like the cosmic equivalent of a long overdue intervention. Gemini energy is not interested in emotional theatrics. It delivers truth the way a seasoned therapist does, calmly, clearly, and without letting you dodge the real point. Under this moon, your thoughts sharpen and your mind snaps awake as if someone opened a window and let a cold breeze rush in. Suddenly, the mental clutter you've been ignoring for weeks, maybe months, stands out the same way a messy room looks different once the sun hits it. You begin to see, with uncomfortable precision, where your time has been slipping through your fingers, where your energy has been spent on people or habits that no longer deserve the generosity of your attention, and where procrastination has been masquerading as waiting for the right moment. Gemini does not cushion the truth, it hands it to you straight. And if you listen closely, you might hear a tone that sounds suspiciously like, "Leo, sweetheart, we need to talk." As someone who has spent decades studying the psychology, habits, and emotional patterns of the Leo archetype across cultures and generations, I can say with confidence that your issue has never been talent, heart, or intelligence. Your challenge has always been the same, the mismanagement of your extraordinary potential. Leos often live with such a wide horizon of possibility that time becomes both a stage and a trap. You either command it with perfection or lose hours, days, even months to the gentle illusion that there will always be more time later. The Gemini full moon illuminates this contradiction with a clarity that borders on surgical. It highlights 4 core time wounds that most Leos carry, often without noticing. The first is wasted time you pretended wasn't wasted. Deep down, you knew a situation, relationship, or chapter had reached its natural end, but the loyalty wired into your nature convinced you to stay long past the expiration date. The second is emotional time debt, those areas where you invested your heart fully while receiving very little in return. The third is hopeful delusion. Leo optimism is radiant and powerful, but it can also morph into a soft, comfortable fantasy that shields you from reality when reality feels inconvenient. And the fourth is burnout behind the smile, that tendency to take on everything at once until your inner fire dims, though you continue smiling as if the weight is nothing. The beauty of this full moon is that none of this is punishment. It is course correction. It is a recalibration of how you move through your days and how you honor your own energy. Gemini doesn't accuse, it clarifies. It shows you the truth so you can reclaim your time, sharpen your focus, and realign with your purpose. It urges you to stop treating your life like a rehearsal and start stepping into the main act of your existence with intention. If you allow this moon to guide you, it will shift your relationship with time from dramatic chaos to conscious mastery. And perhaps for the first time in a while, you'll feel the relief of finally stopping the internal tug-of-war and choosing a direction that supports your best, brightest, most grounded self. Gratitude, as simple as it sounds, is the ultimate reset button for a Leo. And I say that not as a poetic exaggeration but as someone who has spent decades studying the emotional, psychological, and energetic patterns of your sign across cultures, ages, and life experiences. When a Leo taps into gratitude, even in the smallest, most unglamorous way, the entire energetic architecture around them shifts. This isn't the soft, inspirational poster version of gratitude. It's not about whispering affirmations into the void or pretending everything is perfect. Gratitude for a Leo is more like an internal tuning fork that snaps your energy back into alignment. I've seen it happen repeatedly. The moment a Leo remembers what is already working, their intuition sharpens with startling accuracy, creativity begins flowing again as if someone lifted a dam, emotional clarity returns like a window suddenly wiped clean, and charisma, your natural birthright, comes back online without effort. Even your inner fire steadies, turning from scattered sparks into focused warmth. And when a Leo forgets gratitude, everything dims. The world feels just a little duller, your motivation sags, your spark fades, and even your legendary presence begins to feel like a flickering light bulb in a hallway you keep meaning to fix. This full moon is urging you to reconnect not with forced positivity, but with genuine appreciation for what already holds you up. Gratitude is not a spiritual accessory, it is your power source, the very thing that regulates your emotional weather and reminds you of who you are beneath the noise. While gratitude brings you back to center, the next part of the story belongs to adjustment, because the universe is rewriting your script whether you're ready or not. One of the most consistent truths I've learned from long-term research is that if a Leo refuses to move, destiny will eventually move things for you. And often not with your permission. Leo loyalty is both your crown and your curse. You stay long after the music stops because you see potential in people and possibilities long after others have checked out. You give second chances like a benevolent ruler granting royal pardons. But the Gemini full moon doesn't have time for sentimental leadership. It walks in with a metaphorical clipboard, flips through your life like a manager reviewing a cluttered office, and says, in a tone almost clinically polite, let's clear the clutter. The adjustments arriving in your life may come in many forms: an unexpected career shift, a relocation you once resisted, a breakup or breakthrough that forces emotional honesty, a commitment you can no longer postpone, a family dynamic that needs restructuring, or a decision you've been avoiding because it changes everything. Whatever the form, the universe is done waiting for you to feel ready. This is the plot twist you didn't write, but absolutely need. And woven into all of this transformation are the spiritual codes of 777 and 999, two numerical signatures that rarely appear together unless your soul is undergoing rapid evolution. When 777 shows up, it indicates accelerated growth, the kind you didn't plan for, can't fully explain, and probably wouldn't have chosen if someone had offered you a menu. It's uncomfortable, often messy, but entirely necessary because it pulls you out of spiritual stagnation and forces you into a higher version of yourself. Then 999 arrives with its unmistakable message of completion. Not the dramatic, tear-streaked endings associated with movies or breakups, but clean conclusions that feel overdue and strangely relieving. With these numbers hovering in your field, you may find yourself utterly done with outdated patterns, with low-effort relationships, with emotional loops that never lead anywhere new, with the habits that steal your time, and with the way you've been lowering your standards for the sake of peace. This isn't bitterness. This is clarity born from evolution. It is your soul recognizing what no longer matches your frequency and quietly closing the door. When people talk about Leo strength, they usually picture something theatrical: your roar, your presence, the kind of charisma that lights up a room before you even say a word. But the truth, learned over years of studying Leo patterns in psychology, astrology, and human behavior, is that your real strength is far quieter. It is the kind of strength forged in the dark, in the moments when the audience has gone home and no one is applauding. The bones symbolize that inner architecture, what survives after every illusion falls away, what remains unshaken after disappointments, what cannot be broken by rejection or delay, and the version of you that exists without needing validation or spotlight. This full moon activates that internal core, the part of you that has stood back up after every storm you thought would flatten you. It reminds you that you have already faced harder chapters than the one you are in now, and you are still here. In fact, you are built for the life you want, even if you sometimes forget your own resilience. It is almost comical how often Leos underestimate their quiet strength. You assume your power is loud simply because your personality is, but the deepest parts of you operate in silence, patience, endurance, and private courage. While the bones awaken, the wheel of fortune begins its turn, and it does not ask for permission. The turning of the wheel is rarely subtle. It marks a shift that you may not have initiated but are absolutely being pushed toward. Many Leos have felt a sense of stagnation recently, as if life has been looping the same 3 scenes over and over again like a low-budget sitcom. The full moon interrupts that cycle. It moves the plot forward, especially if you've been giving too much to the wrong things, staying in places long after your soul has checked out, working past exhaustion, undervaluing your worth, or avoiding necessary changes out of fear. Destiny steps in with the kind of firm kindness that says, "You're capable of more than this." The direction is forward, whether you feel ready or not. This shift can feel like someone nudging you from behind while you insist you were about to move on your own. But trust the timing. The wheel of fortune never turns without purpose, and when it turns under a Gemini full moon, it usually carries the lesson of momentum. Stop waiting for the perfect moment to begin, and simply begin. And then the High Priestess enters the picture, bringing the kind of inner knowing you can't rationalize away. Leo intuition is far stronger than the sign gives itself credit for. The issue is that you often lead with your heart and only realize later that your instincts were whispering the truth all along. This full moon, however, removes the volume knob and sets your intuition to maximum clarity. Suddenly you may find yourself seeing people for who they really are, not who you hoped they could be. You may sense who is genuinely in your corner, who is jealous, who drains your energy, and who enriches it. You might understand exactly what needs to change, what you must release, and what direction your next chapter is calling you toward. Secrets rise to the surface with the unmistakable timing of fate, and truths both internal and external become impossible to ignore. Some of these truths will be affirming, others unsettling, and some may feel like a relief disguised as revelation. But all of them serve the same purpose, to align you back with your authentic path. If the bones show you what is unbreakable, and the wheel turns you toward your destiny, then the High Priestess ensures you see the path clearly enough to walk it without hesitation. After the emotional clearing and internal realignment sparked by this full moon, something remarkable begins to return to you, not with force, not with desperation, but with a kind of natural ease that feels almost miraculous. The Nine of Cups and Ace of Cups together symbolize emotional renewal in its most sincere form. This is the moment where fulfillment begins to rise again, quietly but unmistakably, like a sunrise you didn't realize you were waiting for. You may find yourself opening to new love or forming an emotional connection that feels honest and refreshing, not performative or exhausting. Creativity, which may have been dormant or tangled in stress, begins to flow again with the kind of effortless rhythm that reminds you of who you are when you're not trying so hard. Long-awaited inspiration resurfaces like an old friend tapping your shoulder. Healing begins in places you thought might remain bruised forever. Your sense of self-worth deepens, rooted not in validation but in an internal recognition of your own resilience. And perhaps most importantly, you start feeling like yourself again, the vibrant, expressive, wholehearted version of you that life occasionally tries to dim. Leos are not built for muted living, you are meant to experience life in full color. This full moon returns emotional vibrancy to your system and reminds you that joy is not a luxury but a necessity for your spirit. As your emotional world brightens, your mental clarity sharpens as well. The King and Queen of Swords appear as symbols of a new intellectual authority within you. Normally, Leos deliver truth with warmth, sometimes too much warmth, the kind that cushions other people's feelings at the expense of your own clarity. But this season demands something different. You become direct, strategic, and startlingly honest, the way someone becomes when they finally stop performing emotional gymnastics to keep the peace. There is a bluntness to your truth-telling now, not cruel but clean. Your boundaries, once flexible for the sake of compassion, become firm and unmistakable. Your voice lands with precision, and your decisions take on a quiet finality that may surprise those who were used to your generosity stretching too far. Some people won't love this sharpened version of you, but your inner peace certainly will. This clarity is liberation, not loss. Meanwhile, your physical environment begins to mirror your internal transformation. The full moon initiates a shift in home, family, and foundational matters, areas that often carry weight for a Leo because they anchor your sense of belonging. Many Leos may feel pulled to move, redecorate, or rearrange their living spaces to match their new mental clarity. Some will clear out old belongings that carry emotional residue, creating space for a future that feels more aligned. Others will set long overdue boundaries with family, not out of conflict but out of self-respect. And for many, this is the moment to leave environments, whether physical, social, or emotional, that no longer support your growth. Your home becomes a symbol of your inner maturity, a reflection of the internal structure you're building. As your inner world upgrades, your outer world follows. Judgment, in the spiritual and psychological sense, is never about punishment. It is about awakening, clarity, and maturity. It is the quiet but powerful moment when life places a mirror in front of you, not the flattering mirror with soft lighting, but the honest one that shows what has been ignored, carried too long, or repeated unintentionally. During this full moon, you will find yourself asking questions that cut straight to the core. What genuinely brought you joy? Not the performance of joy but the real thing? What drained you consistently, no matter how hard you tried to justify it? What cycles have you repeated out of habit rather than intention? What burdens have you been carrying simply because you forgot you could put them down? And perhaps the most important question of all, what deserves priority in your life moving forward? The answers to these questions become the blueprint for your next chapter. Judgment is the soul's annual audit, and while it may feel intense, it is liberating because it allows you to move with truth rather than illusion. Once that clarity lands, the magician steps in. After years of working with Leos analyzing birth charts, listening to life stories, observing psychological patterns, I can say with confidence that when a Leo finally releases the wrong thing, the right thing doesn't just show up, it rushes in like it was standing outside the door the entire time, tapping its foot, wondering what took you so long. Your manifestation power skyrockets when fear begins to loosen its grip, when procrastination finally stops masquerading as divine timing, when emotional clutter is cleared out like the attic you've been avoiding, and when your boundaries stop being suggestions and start being laws. Your decisions become sharper, your energy consolidates, and your intentions take on a magnetic charge. This is not just another manifesting period, it is one of the strongest windows you've had in years, a period where alignment becomes easier and results arrive faster. Yet underneath this surge of power, many Leos may feel an odd, almost tender sense of homesickness, though not for a physical place. This is a spiritual longing, a soul-level remembering. It's the feeling that something meaningful is calling you, even if you can't articulate it yet. You might feel drawn toward purpose, towards a truer sense of belonging, toward authenticity so deep it feels like a homecoming. It may feel like yearning for a version of yourself that you haven't fully met but can already sense. This is not sadness, it is your soul stretching awake, signaling that you are moving into a phase where surface-level living no longer satisfies you. You are craving depth, intention, and spiritual resonance. That longing is a sign of maturation, a sign that your inner world is evolving faster than your outer circumstances and the world will soon adjust to match you. This full moon is guided by one of the most powerful truths ever spoken: all we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. Under this lunar light, you are asked 3 sacred questions. What are you truly doing with your time? Who are you giving it to? And most importantly, do these choices honor your soul or drain it? This is your turning point, the moment where passive living ends and conscious living begins. Time is not just a resource for Leo, it is your throne. Protect it with discernment, intention, and a touch of regal self-respect. And so, Leo, here is my final message to you, spoken from the vantage point of someone who has studied your sign in charts, in stories, and in human behavior for decades. You are stronger than you allow yourself to believe. You deserve far more than what you sometimes settle for out of loyalty or hope. You are more intuitive than you admit, more capable than you show, and more brilliant than you realize on your hardest days. Your time is sacred, your energy is sacred, and your path is sacred. This full moon gives you back your courage, your clarity, your standards, your intuition, your fire, and ultimately, your life. This is not a minor cycle, this is a rebirth of identity and purpose. Step into it fully, boldly, unapologetically. The world is better when you shine, and this chapter marks your return to a brilliance that is uniquely, undeniably yours. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to support the energy of this space by liking, sharing, and subscribing to Golden Fortune Leo. Your engagement helps the channel grow and allows these messages to reach more Leos who need them. Until next time, keep your head lifted, your heart open, and your spirit wild. Life is meant to be lived deeply. Go enjoy it.